Once your logo has been totally cut out, you can go ahead and start to pin it onto your piece of fabric that you're going to be sewing it onto. Again, just pointing out that we don't have it within the seam allowance. We also don't have it within the casing at the top. I'm going to do each letter separately, and I'm doing them in different colors of thread just to show you the effect of using a contrasting color when you're going to go ahead and applique. Coming in, and I'm going to start with my letter K. And one thing actually I did want to point out, my K and my P are overlapping each other. I'm going to do the letter P later on. So now that I have it where I like it, I know where it is. I'm going to actually move the P out of the way, just pin it to keep it back, just like that. And so now I can just go ahead and do the letter K. Always start in the middle of a straight edge somewhere. So lining it up and going ahead, positioning needle down, foot down. Once you've got it in place, you can already take out your first pin. And then I always like to start with the hand wheel to make sure I'm on the outer edge of the letter K before I go. Give it a little gas and just move slow and steady along until you get to the corner. I'll show you how to do the corner. As I approach the corner, I slow down a little bit because I want to make sure I'm exactly on the edge coming in. When I get to the corner, I hand wheel my last couple of stitches, stopping on the outer edge of the K, because this way when I pick up my foot and pivot and I start to sew my next side, it's going to stay on that edge. So now I'm ready to go ahead, turn my corner and continue. When you get to that point where you think you need to turn the inner corner, to do an inner corner, you want your needle to be down on the left, but you need to go a little further, about the width of the actual zigzag, into the letter K so that you get a nice clean inner edge. So I'm going to go approximately 4 more stitches, and now stopping on the left side instead of the right, lifting and pivoting. And now I can see I am going to catch that inner edge of the letter K. Just perfect. It's a short little piece. Again, I can see that I'm lined up with the edge of the letter, but I want to overshoot it just a bit. So a couple more stitches. Stopping on the left, lifting, pivoting, and for sure this is the right spot. You'll get better at this once you've played with it a little bit. If you want to try it on a piece of scrap fabric first, that's okay too. When you reach the end, you're going to overlap just a little bit and then do a very small reverse to tie off to make sure that there's a knot so that it doesn't come apart. I've almost finished my logo here, my letter K, and I just wanted to show you how to finish when you approach the spot where you've started. Remember, I did not do a reverse here at the beginning, so now I'm going to come over top of my old stitching just a little ways and do a small reverse at the end, just to tie it off to make sure it doesn't start to unravel. So I'm going to just come over top. Just go a little ways over, and then go ahead and reverse. Small amount, forward just a few, and you're done. The letter K is finished. I would now go and give it a quick press so that it lays flat. Trim off your threads. If you decided you really wanted to do a second lap, you could have gone around a second time. I'm not going to, just because I need to move along with this project, but if you have the time and you want it to look a little more filled in and a little more solid, a second round of stitching will really give you that look. It gives it a more professional finish. So now, as you can see, I'll just overlap the letter P. Once I've pressed it, trimmed my threads, I'm going to go ahead, and I'm planning to switch colors here. I'm going to do the letter P in a white thread instead, so that you can just see the contrast of both when they're done. Always a good idea to start in an easy spot where you know all you need to do is sew in a straight line. So start in the middle of a long straight edge whenever you can. We'll come into the corner. It'll be an outside corner, just like we had a lot of those on the letter K. And then just slow and steady when you're coming around that curve, because as you know from your samples that you've done in class, Curves are a little trickier than straights. You need to make sure that you stop and adjust frequently with your presser foot in order to do a curve successfully. So my hands are really turning the fabric as I'm sewing to follow the curve. If it starts to get looking like it's a little bit bunchy, it's okay to make sure, as long as your needle is down, you can lift your foot and you can kind of smooth out your fabric, put your foot back down, and then carry on. Again, you might need to encourage it to get started. A little pull is okay. So I just wanted to show how I overlapped the letter P on top of the K, and I literally just sewed right over top of it. Now, because I'm using a white thread on a kind of a gray fabric, it doesn't show up really well. And so I am actually going to go ahead and do a second round on this letter P with my white thread, just to kind of make it a little more white, a little more crisp, so that it shows up. So I have gone ahead and finished my logo. So I've got the K and the P on. I did the P in 2 laps. I did the interior part, of course, after I did the exterior part. You can see the overlap there where they come over top of each other. So this can be a really fun design feature if you're overlapping some pieces. One thing I want to point out here is you'll notice that I've got some puckers at the top here, also at the bottom, where the fabric really doesn't want to lay straight. I was very limited in my choice of fabric because of this COVID crisis that we have going on. This fabric is a little on the light side. I would prefer something a little heavier weight because you have less of these puckering issues when your fabric is a little heavier. In class, you will be using cotton twill, which is a nice heavy, sort of a medium to heavyweight fabric. And most of our logo choices are also made out of that fabric. So the issues you see here with the puckering and the little wrinkly bits are going to be much less of an issue if you use proper fabric. I'm going to go ahead and finish this anyways, because you'll see, even with these kinds of issues, once the whole bag is put together, those little things just kind of disappear and you don't really notice them.